I hope all's well. My name is Kirsty, Crafting Kirsty here on YouTube and Instagram. It is Thursday the 14th of May and I have been missing in action yet again, for which I apologise. I had planned on recording another video at the beginning of March. That went out of the window and then it's just basically taken me this long to get around to doing it. I think this might be a three-parter. We're in the middle of black grassing, so at the moment we're walking up and down the fields weeding them because it's the one of two now weeds that the spray doesn't seem to kill, so you have to pull it out by hand. So I think, and I've got quite a lot to show you actually, so I think I'm going to split it up into, I'm going to record the cross stitch today, hopefully tomorrow I'll get the quilting done and the following day I'll get my knitting done, or it might be over the course for another couple of days, and then try and mash it all together and see what happens. So as a result, there might or might not be before pictures. It depends if A, I remember to take any, B, if I can find them, and C, if I've got the time to do that much editing. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant, wasn't it? Sorry. I hope you're all well. I hope you've all had a good, I think I filmed at the beginning of February. So February, March, April, and nearly halfway through May. I hope you've all been getting lots done, been enjoying the sunshine that we have had. It's sunny, but also raining outside. So yeah, it's just that sort of time of the year, isn't it? Anyway, let's get on with it. I've got a couple of finishes to show you. A, they're quite small, and B, there was very little left to do on them, but I have done it. So the first one I finished was this little autumn pin keep, which I will eventually turn into a pillow, I think, or maybe even a little, sort of stand-up-y thing. I can't remember, I think it's Rustic Primitives or something like that. It's off a Etsy shop, downloaded, and yeah, just very simple pattern, but I really enjoyed stitching it. Glad I've got it finished. And I think this is just a leftover piece of hand-dyed, whereas Zweigart, I don't know, probably about a 28 or a 32 count, I don't know, but it just fitted onto I've obviously cut it off the bottom of something else. So yes, so that's the first piece done. The second finish I had was Bringing Home the Tree from Pinebury Lane, which, I'll let that drop down, which is there. So again, I'm very pleased with this. I probably had 2 or 3 trees and the lead for the sledge, and that was about it. So I just knuckled down and got these finished because it's just ridiculous having them sitting around. Now I think it is a Zweigart, and I think it's the Vintage Country Mocha, I think, because it's plain on this side. Oh, that's bizarre, isn't it? So I'm now showing you the back of it, and of course it's now showing it to me as the correct writing. But, sorry, I hadn't realised that. But it is printed on this side, and that's also correctly. So yes, I've got quite a lot more of this, which is good. I do like it. I've got a little start and abandonment down here. This was one of the Jenny Bean, I think gingerbread, possibly, and I think I did do a conversion for the colours. I wasn't all that fussed on the colours, and yeah, it just drifted out of my intention to stitch pile. I haven't actually gone back to look at my last video to see quite where I was on everything and what I haven't shown you, so I'm sorry, a couple of these might be a bit of a repeat, but I have definitely worked on them all. So the first one I'll show you is my Dutch Beauty sampler, which will look like this when it's eventually finished. I might restart it again, which will be the 3rd time, but we shall see. So this is the Dutch Beauty sampler from Perman of Copenhagen. And I don't know where it was the last time you saw it, but I've definitely increased a bit more down here. I think I've probably done the plant pot, and possibly a second bird up here or something. Now this is on a 40 count Zweigart, plain white, As I've already said, this is my second time of starting it, because the first time I used hand dyed, I just dyed my own, over dyed my own linen, and I decided I didn't like the colour of it, so I've passed that on to someone else. And I'm really struggling with this on the 40 count, and it's a huge piece, and I'm just not convinced I want to continue it on this. So I have ordered from Swan Bay Fabrics, I've ordered 2 pieces of Ada, an 18 count and a 20 count Ada. So that will equate to 36 and 40 count linen. And I'm just going to have a go. I've bought 2 fat quarters, so this wouldn't fit on it anyway. But I just thought, I'm going to give it a go, see what it looks like. I have no issue with Ada other than the crunchiness of it, and quite often you can really see the holes in the fabric within the finished project. You know, each their own. Is just not something I desperately want. However, I'm getting a bit fed up of not being able to see the fabric, everything taking me so long, having to now, I'm getting to the point I'm now starting to having to look at magnifiers and extra lights, and it's just, I just don't want to go down that route. So I thought, right, I'm going to try 2 bits of Ada, as I said, the 18 and the 20 to give me the 36 and the 40, and see what they're like. And if I like them, I will hopefully try and purchase some more. And yes, I might transfer this onto, it'll probably be the 20 count, because it's still going to be absolutely huge. I mean, this is fairly sure, this is 40 count, and you know, this is the sort of size that we're looking at the moment. So we shall see. I mean, I would say, you know, you can wait with a bated breath, but I doubt you're that excited about it. But yes, so I've done a little bit more, and I love the chart. I really want to get it stitched. It's not got many colours in it. I just am not enjoying it on this fabric. So we shall see. You might not see that one for a little while again. Because if I do change it, I'm then going to have to reorder some other fabric. The next one, I put a whole load of work in, because I think, well, I don't think, I know, at the beginning of the year, or when I filmed my last floss tube in February, I had all these plans. They've gone out of the window completely. Yeah, I think I sat here saying, oh, I'm going to, you know, work on each piece for 3 weeks, and then in the weekends I've got this, and blah, blah, blah. And I went from that to then thinking, well, actually, I'd quite like to finish it Friday. So I chose a piece that I was going to work on every Friday. And then I pulled out a Halloween piece, and I thought, well, I can work on that on the 13th, 31st. And then by some bizarre stroke of misfortune, we had a couple of Fridays that were also the 13th. So I was like, oh, what do I work on now? And yeah, a couple of Fridays I just wasn't around, and it just, anyway, that has also slightly gone to the side. But I'm not obviously sticking to my rigid, I'm going to work on this for 3 weeks. I think I will keep on pulling various things out, but I think on the whole, particularly coming up now to our busy time of the year, I'm probably going to try to be a lot more monogamous and just pick something and stitch on it till I really am sick to death of it. Anyway, get back on track. You can tell I haven't done this for a little while. I continued working on the Owl Forest Embroidery Black Vintage Sampler, which looks like that. I am not doing mine in black. I am doing mine in a variety of browns, just because I didn't particularly want a black sampler on the wall. I started this with Elaine Ellywelly Stitcher a good few years ago now, and I know that she was stitching on this recently and saying that she really, really enjoyed it. And I do, when I pick it up, I really enjoy stitching on it. Anyway, sorry, so I think I've basically filled in this top section now, finished the grandfather clock, and did the chandelier. I can't remember, but I now know all of that section is now sort of complete. And I think I need to bring the border down a bit more. Yeah, and as I said, when I tend to pick it up, I don't want to put it down. So, so yes, we shall see. And what is that being worked on? Don't know. Sorry, I'm not very good at keeping track of my linens. I think this could be the one where I never know whether it's a North Sampler House linen or a foxglove and lace linen. And I know foxglove and lace doesn't dye anymore. North Sampler House, which is Northumberland Samplers, I think, on Etsy, does still dye lots of linen. I just don't know whether it's, I don't know which of those two it is, but it is a lovely linen, whichever one it is a lovely linen. The next piece I pulled out and put some more work into was, oh, and this was the other thing, I kept on pulling out charts, thinking, oh, I'll work on this one, and I didn't have the next obvious colour. I'd run out, so I had to put in a big order of DMC. So then having put in this order of DMC, oh, where is my finish it from? Oh, it's, right, no, I'll do that in a minute. Okay, sorry. So having done this big order of DMC and a couple of fancy flosses, I could then crack on. Anyway, the next thing I have definitely worked on is Portuguese bird sampler from Barbara Ann Designs, which looks like this. I started this last year as one of Jan's 6 for 60. I think Jan has finished hers. I'm fairly sure she's finished hers. I have not. But I have put more work into it, so it is now looking like this. So I think I've taken a couple of the borders across. Gosh, it's very creased. I have actually ironed this, you wouldn't believe it. And I've put some colours in. Now I managed to, I think one of the very first colours in these light bulbs, I didn't have. And I then didn't want to trust my counting to, you know, try and work around it. So anyway, I've done a few colours in the light bulb. I think I've taken a few more of the borders across, possibly put the eyelet. Yeah, so a bit more there. And I think this is probably a 36 count. It's a Zweigart because it's got the orange stripe. Fairly sure that's 36 count. That I obviously just had in my stash, I suppose. Another piece, so this was the piece I picked out for my spooky stitching, 13th and either 31st or the last day of the month. And it's the Away We Ride by Blackbird Designs. Again, when I get stitching on this, I really enjoy it and don't particularly want to put it down. But there we go. And I know everyone was complaining, well, not everyone, but the people I have watched in the past that have stitched this all complain about the border. I actually don't dislike the border. It's fairly easy, it's very monotonous apart from the colour changes. So yeah, and I'm just doing it as I go round, which probably makes a bit of a difference. But anyway, so this is where I'm up to now, and this is on a piece of, I don't know what fabric, it's a scrap of something. But I think I finished the wording, finished this border, started on the bird, put in this little section because I could work it off this border. I took this with me to the Essex Needles retreat and did a bit of work on it there. But yes, I have, I do enjoy this. It's not going to be overly big. I think there's quite a lot in the house. I think there's quite a lot of stitching in that house. But getting on with it. And that's with all the called for, well, it's called for Gentle Arts sample threads with a DMC conversion. I'm doing it all in DMC. Everything bar the one project that I've forgotten, which I will nip round and get in a minute, is done on with DMC. Right, let me go and get that project. Hopefully you won't see my pajamas. Talk amongst yourselves. Right, here we go. Sorry. So I have forgotten this project because I've taken it away on my quilting week with me. So this was the project I decided that I was going to call my Finish It Friday project, and I was going to work on it on Fridays and hopefully bring it to an end by the end of the year, because it's quite a big project. And it is. And I mean, I have done a bit on it, quite a bit on it, but obviously not for a little while now. Sorry, not prepped for this one. With the needle 2 Lila's or Lila's Studio So that is what it will look like. Really enjoying this stitch. And this is the one that does have the fancy flosses in it, because there was no conversion. I did go to a shop and start trying to convert them. Basically just got bored, so took the easy route out and bought the fancy floss instead. And where am I now with this one? Oh, here we go. So it's not ironed, I'm afraid. Let me fold this bit over. And so I'm now here. And if you did watch my last video and saw it, you probably are wondering quite what I've done. But, well, I've started on this block because I didn't have any more of the green that I needed. So I started on the sort of water block, and I put these done the wheel, put the fishes and the octopus in, starfish. And then once I'd done my big order of flosses, I then had the greens. So I'd run out of, I think it's English Ivy, and I've got, because I'm doing, this is 2 over 2. I think this is a 32 count or 30 count Access Commodities fabric, and I absolutely love it. But doing 2 over 2, you are eating up your fabric. And I think this English Ivy, I think, you know, I've already used about 3 skeins, and I should imagine I'm going to have to buy some more. But anyway, I was at a point where I couldn't really count up from this way because I wanted to have these in, and I needed to get this done across the top. So I have done. And, oh, there we go. And yeah, then I was able to go across the top, and yeah, I've done bits and pieces. And I will be picking that back up again. I really enjoy it. And I think if I just keep on steadily plugging away at it, because I've done all the massive 1 over 1 section. Hopefully I can get that finished by the end of this year, which I would really like to do, because then it'll be one major whip out of the pile. And did I show you what it should look like when it's finished? No. So there you go. So you've got a good mixture of little motifs and then sort of more full coverage is the wrong word, but you know, very stitch heavy boxes, which I quite enjoy. So yeah, enjoy the mix. And then the final piece that I've done any significant work on, and I am working on it fairly monogamous. There's a magpie, good day, Not going to say it. I've been concentrating on this piece, which is the Comfort Lighthouse Carriage House samplings. I did my own colour conversion. I mean, it's still blue, but I just pulled out my own colours. And I think when I started it, I started down at the bottom, and I was doing the mermaid, and I miscounted on the mermaid, and so I put it down. Anyway, I took it I took this one to the Essex Needles Retreat, because I thought, well, that's quite a good thing, just to sit there and unpick whilst I'm talking to people. So I took this to the Essex Needles Retreat and unpicked, started working, and I've just really enjoyed it since. So I'm now up to here. So yeah, I've done the lighthouse, I've done the, I suppose, lighthouse keeper's cottage, although I thought they always lived in the lighthouses. I've done a few fish, some more waves, the waves and the hair. If you're going from one way, it's really easy to get into a pattern of doing it. Going from the other way, as I've just found out, it's not so easy, and it's right pain. But anyway, I don't know if you can see it particularly well. You can see it better, not much better, but you can see it better in real life. Probably ghosting out, but there's sort of some white down there. Anyway, this, I don't know what this is being stitched on. Again, this was a piece of fabric I bought when I went to, I think it's Northgate Needleworks in Great Yarmouth, a good few years ago now. And I sort of bought a whole load of scraps because she had a good variety of fabrics available. But can you see the mottling in there? It's a sort of grey blue, just, yeah, and I think it really suits this piece. And I've still got another half down there, so I can do another piece on there. And I have the image of a really cheap white tacky frame with shells glued onto the edge of it to put this one in and stick it up in the bathroom. So yeah, so I mean, a decent amount, but not that much more to do. So I've got the boat, the big crab, and then just a few, you know, small stars and whatnot. And then I'm finished. I did have to unpick one side of the lighthouse, and then I did the other side, and I've gone slightly wrong again, and so I just left that. So I have got a wonky lighthouse. My floors are on a slant. But other than that, not sure you can see that particularly from here. Quite helps that that white goes out a bit, isn't it, I think? But yeah, really happy with that. So I think, you know, I'm going to work on that until I've completed it. But we shall see, because it does appear to be that the minute I say something like that, I then do a complete U-turn. Now, the only other thing I have done is I've had a start, a restart, and then a given up in disgust, and again waiting for the Ada to come through, because I think I'm going to probably do it on that. So, was it the Easter weekend? I think it was the Easter weekend. I'm on a Instagram group, and I've been trying to convince everyone to buy Esther Hawksworth. A couple of people agreed, and we had it shipped over and shared the shipping from America, which was great. And at the same time, my friend Chris chimed up with the fact that she was going to start the Smith sample from the Scarlet House. She was just waiting for the silks, I think, Stuart Peakside Needlework was going to pick them up for her at market or something. At which point everyone chimed in and said, oh yes, I've got the Smith sample, I'll start it with you. So I think, if I can remember correctly, we were supposed to start it the Easter weekend. Don't actually know whether Chris has or not. I did. And I'm not very happy with it at all. So this is the Smith sampler from the Scarlet House, sorry. Now, when I look at this, I think it's quite spring-like. To me, I think you've got the red, I see blue, I see green, and I see quite light, reasonably bright, the white's quite strong. To me, it's a very spring palette. Anyway, so I did the DMCs, which is, what's it called for? No, it isn't. So it's a combination of Belsoir, Dinky Dyes, Gloriana, or there is a DMC. So I did the DMC conversion, so obviously that changes it slightly. But when I do look online, I think it's, anyway. And these came out. Now, I don't like them. I don't like them for this sampler. I like all the colours individually. I just don't think, so that is what translates as the blue in the piece. So that is actually supposed to be sea foam. So that is supposed to be the blue underneath the swan. Oh, hang on, sorry, try and get it in front. I mean, I like the red. It's a good strong red, but it's not a bright red. And I think that's quite a bright tulipy red to my mind. Yeah, anyway, so I started it on the first piece of fabric, and I didn't like the fabric. I didn't like the fabric because I don't think I could see it properly. I think it was a 36 count possibly. It was over dyed, which I think tightens up the holes slightly anyway. And then I think it makes it harder to see as well when it's over dyed. I love over dyed fabric, but yeah, I was struggling to see it. So I thought, right, I'll pull it out from that. And I picked up, because it's not actually a huge, sorry, back to it again, not a huge sampler. 193 by 273. So it's big enough, but it's not massive. So I thought, all right, I'm going to put it onto a 32 count because that will still be sensible sized. I can see it. So I picked out this bit of, it's not Zweigart because there's no orange in it. 32 count that I had hanging around. It's real Daz white. It is Daz white, which probably doesn't help as well. So I started on this Daz white piece of fabric thought, I just don't like those colours. They're just, no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. So I spat my dummy out and I stopped doing it. I think I will probably unpick this and over dye this, even just in a little bit of tea, so it's not quite so. I mean, look at the brightness of that, which doesn't help, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm going to choose my own colours, and I think when this Ada comes through, I will probably start this on one of those Adas and just choose my own colours. What 2 colours have I ordered? I can't remember, but they're very beige sampler, you know, just very plain colours. So hopefully that will sit nicely on them, and I will pull my own brighter, you know, the equivalents of these, but just with a little more pizzazz or springtime colours, I think, really. So yeah, so that was a start and a throw in the bin in disgust. And I think that is all I have to talk about with my cross stitching. I have no haul with the exception of the 2 bits of fabric I'm waiting on. Yeah, and that's about it really. I mean, I've still got lots of big charts that I haven't touched. So whether we have, you know, we're going May, whether in the second half of the year I have this mass, oh my God, I've got to touch everything, because I would like to touch everything this year. Might have a couple of restarts, only really on the ones that I'm really struggling with, or that are absolutely huge and I'm just like not enjoying. Do I have any planned starts? I have a planned start for my birthday in July, which will be a scarlet, is it Scarlet Letter? I think it's Scarlet Letter. One of them very similar to my Huntsman. Yeah, and that's it. So I'm running out of things to say now. We're at 27 minutes. So I am going to turn this off, and hopefully I will come back tomorrow with some quilting. I have quite a lot of quilting. Oh, I've had some quilting dilemmas to tell you about. If for some reason I can't mix them all together, I will just put all 3 videos out at the same time. There will be no escaping me. I will be staring at you from my screen, whichever way you turn. But yeah, hopefully I can mould it all into one, and you'll just have to sit through me for a long time. But yes, hopefully I'll be back tomorrow with my quilting. Thank you so much for watching this now. And yeah, it's been a bit scrappy. I haven't really written any notes. It's been a little while, just trying to get back into it. Right, so knitting, I'm not knitting. Quilting, what have I got done recently? Well, not as much as I would have liked. I've had quite a frustrating time with my quilting, which I will talk about in a minute. So when I last saw you, I only had 1 quilt on the go, which is my Jane Austen quilt. And I am hand piecing this, so English paper piecing. And essentially the way the pattern is worked, you have big diamonds of 9 diamonds within them in this centre part, apart from sort of 3s around the edges. A piece in the middle, which I will be appliquing because I can't find a print with a big enough pattern on it that I like. And then all of these are quite literally hundreds and hundreds of 1-inch diamonds. I'm nowhere near this stage yet. So you're told to basically put 1 quarter together, 2 quarters, these, and then join at the end, hoping it all fits. But we shall see. Anyway, I'm using a fat quarter bundle from French General called Bonheur de Jour, I think. And I have added a few extra French General pieces in just to get a few browns and blues and yellows in there. And then within the smaller diamonds, I think there will probably be a few other bits if I don't have enough material left. I might well have enough material. If I don't, it'll be far easier just to incorporate it into the smaller diamonds than the big ones, because these bigger diamonds are it's all symmetrical. So that is symmetrical to that, that is symmetrical to that. And you have quite a few fussy cut pieces as well. It's It's actually a reasonably easy pattern to EPP, but it's very intricate with regards to the lady's really gone into depth of what the fabrics used in the original quilt were and how to sort of correspond, whether it's a plain background with a big flower or a little flower and all that sort of thing. So it took quite a lot of organising at the beginning to assign fabrics to numbers and to make sure you had the correct fabrics so you could fussy cut them for their diamonds. Anyway, I am waffling. I have managed to put 4 more diamonds together. So we have, let's see, so we have this diamond. It's quite a lot of greys and sort of greys and beige backgrounds in this particular diamond. And then we have this one now. Oh, hang on, I picked up 2 by accident. They've got the numbers on because, as you can imagine, it's going to be, if I don't have the numbers on, it's going to be an absolute nightmare trying to put them all together. So yeah, I think there you go. So there are your 2 symmetricals. And so I think, was that a fussy cut or not? I can't remember which one was a fussy cut. Yeah, I think possibly this grey one I will have fussy cut. And not always do you get identical, but there you go. So fussy cut to the same as much as I can there and there. And then these are the bottom 2, I assume, or the top 2, but these 2 should then be symmetrical as well, which yes, they appear to be. And then if I pull this one and pull this one, oh, you can't see that properly, sorry. That to that is then symmetrical as well. So that is what I've done of my Jane. That was what I had done of my Jane Austen quilt prior to my quilting week away. So this is now 3rd year, a group of us. I'm in 2 quilting groups within Peterborough, and a lot of the ladies overlap in the 2 groups. And a couple of years ago, one of the ladies said, why don't we organise a retreat? So this 3rd year, as I've said, we go to a place in Northampton, big conference centre, and it's really good. It's really huge, great big room, lots of tables, lots of power plugs, so you can, everyone takes their machines and all the rest of it. Enough floor space as well. I mean, there are 13 of us. Enough floor space as well that you can lay things out on the floor if you want to, or there's extra tables, you can do it on the tables. And then we just have a week there, stay there, all the meals are provided, and it's really good fun. So this year, in preparation for it, because we came back in April, and I should imagine come July, we'll be starting to ask each other what we're going to do next year at our quilt retreat, because we all just do our own things. There's no group project or group assignment or anything. You literally just do what you want to do, which is bliss. And so I take knitting and I take cross stitch, and I just divide the day up or what have you. And it's next to a gorgeous park, big area, big open green area. So I sort of do a couple of walks and all the rest of it. Anyway, going into this week, I had thought I would like to prep another hand-pieced quilt, a hand-piece quilt, and possibly get a sort of 1-block quilt hopefully put together. So the week runs Monday to Friday. Monday morning is just everyone arriving. Everyone arrives at their own time. It's just chaos, and you're helping ladies in with their sewing cases and, all the rest of it. And then Friday morning, we leave after lunch. So Friday morning, everyone tends to have packed away, and you're just sitting there doing a bit of hand stitching or knitting and just sort of, making the most of the final few hours before you have to go home and cook your own food, which, oh God, it's a nightmare. You've been fed for a week. It really is I was like, the one thing I don't want to have to do is go home and cook. Anyway, so you normally have 3 full days and essentially 2 half days. This Monday, the Monday, was my mum's 86th birthday. So obviously I spent the day with her, and I didn't get there till about sort of 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. We then had a day trip out. On the Wednesday morning, we were, as I said, Northampton. So we went to a quilt shop called the Bramble Patch in Northampton. So that took all morning. And then, the Friday, everything's packed away anyway. So essentially, I actually only had about 2.5 days, which I hadn't really thought about prior to getting there. Hadn't really worked that one out. Anyway, so I had in the back of my mind, because this is great, but it takes an awful lot of back work before you actually get to stitch everything together. So I thought, right, I'm going to get the next whole load of I'm practically at the outer border now of this inner section. I'll get those all cut out, glued over, arranged and organised, so I can then just sit and hand stitch them. Didn't even touch this whilst I was away. The first thing I went to work on, and I'll tell you this one because it's slightly more successful than the next one, was, and I'm sorry, I haven't taken this out of the packet properly. So this was a quilt kit I bought a couple of years ago at Malvern. And it's the most gorgeous fabric until you come to iron some of it. No, it's a little bit annoying. But it is the Boudoir queen size quilt. Pull it back a bit so you can read it hopefully. And this is the quilt. See, it's a bit difficult really. So the lady who runs this, I will put it in the description below because there's a lot of names and I'm not sure what any of them are actually. But the lady who has started this business up has managed to get the licensing rights to reprint a whole load of old French linens. And they're absolutely gorgeous. And at the moment she's doing them in sort of colour blocks. So you can buy a blue block or you can buy a pink block or a green block. Anyway, so at the Malvern Quilt Show, I think Sean bought the same colour as me, the blues as well. So we both bought a quilt kit and it's been sitting there for ages, and I thought, because it is just squares, different size squares and then stitched together. So I thought, well, that should be quite easy. It'll be easy enough to cut out whilst I'm there, and then I can just sit and chain piece and all the rest of it. So I started doing that, and I have got all of the squares are now made. However, I haven't actually managed to, I didn't get enough time to put it all together, which is a bit of a shame. So I will take you through the different blocks. So this, you'll have to skew, it's been sitting in a bag. I need to iron it again, which is gonna be a nightmare. So as you can see, I've got 2 squares and then 2 4 patches. So that's one block. We then have a different block of, of just 4 squares. And then the final blocks are just 1 entire square. So these are cut out at 10.5, I think they were. And so these are 10.5, and then the others are cut accordingly to get to 10.5 as well. So that's all very well. I've pieced them all together, but some of them, so the first issue, not the first issue I had, but some of the fabrics are, I'll show you through the individual blocks because they're just so pretty. So this is one individual big. So some of them I wanted to fussy cut. For the bigger ones, if I could, I wanted to be able to fussy cut them, which then essentially you've got a set number of blocks per size and you've got to get it out of the fabric you've got out of. And for the majority of them, it was absolutely fine. And I've got fabric left over, but the blocks where I fussy cut it, it's been slightly more difficult to then get 6 more blocks and I think another sort of 8 smaller blocks out of it. So some of the fabrics have been re-repeated, but anyway, it doesn't matter. When it's all put together, it'll look fine. But yeah, it is just so, oh, wrong side. Sorry, some of this is so, but look at that. I mean, isn't that gorgeous? In fact, I could, something like this in the red, would it sit in the middle of my Jane Austen quilt? Ooh, that's a thought. Ooh, that might have been a light bulb moment. Okay, I need to go to a quilt show. Oh no, what a shame. And have a look to see if the fabric would fit. If I could get something like this or these in a red base that would go with the red within the French line, I wouldn't have to applique in the middle. Oh, I can't believe I've only just had that thought. Anyway, there we go. So sorry. So this was another piece I've sort of fussy cut to make sure I got a pretty picture in the middle. Some of them are repeat pictures, just different colours. Is that upside? Oh, that is upside down. Sorry. And some of these fabrics, as you can see, are quite fine. He's so cute. Look at the two bottoms. Cutie cuties. And I'll talk about the fabrics in a minute, that with my ironing, and I am normally quite good at ironing, I don't push it out. Not all of my blocks are the same sizes, so I think I might have to reduce down, because obviously it's 10.5 unfinished, so it should be 10 inches finished. Some of them are a little bit wonky donkeys. So I think mine might end up at 9.5 unfinished. So this is the majority of the fabrics. This one is just, I mean, they are just so gorgeous. Oh, that's coming out as funny. There we go, that's a bit better. It's the same one. Oh, this one, I love this one. Oh, just so pretty. And then you have other ones like this, which is just the stripe. Oh, I've got some polka dots. Yeah, so it's basically blues, beiges, and whites. This has got quite a good selection of them in there. And then you're essentially, and then I just need to lay them all out and sort them all out. The fabrics I came slightly a cropper with, oh, it's this one in particular. So you get, now this is incredibly fine. And you can even see there, it's, my lines aren't straight, they're wonky. And it's just, yeah, it's slightly distorted out of shape, but for no real reason, other than I think my iron might have been just slightly too hot when I ironed it. Do I care? No. Once it's all together and quilted, will you notice it? No. So yeah, so that is now at the point where I just need to put it all together. So hurry up and get on yours, Sean. And be careful of your fabrics as you iron them, because some of them might just distort a little bit. So yeah, so I was really pleased that I'd managed to get that all cut out and pieced, but not quite pieced together, which I think if I'd have had that extra day and possibly not have gone shopping, I would have been able to do. But I had to go shopping because of my new start, which has fallen at practically every hurdle it's come to so far. So the next and last project I have to talk about is, oh sorry I haven't got this one out either, Crinkle, 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 a chart I had bought over from America for me. I have 2 or 3 charts from this lady sent over, or came over with a friend, and it is From My Heart to Your Hands, Quilt Designs by Laurie Smith. And this was one of the ones that I picked. So this is a sort of folk art applique quilt. Absolutely love it. And I'm quite determined to do it all in needle turn applique. Or I was. No, I still am. It's just going to take a very long time. So I have a lot of fabrics to choose from, lucky me. The one thing I didn't have was a plain green. So I had chosen, I don't think I still have it in here, possibly. I had chosen another fabric that I could have used as the border, because I was desperately trying not to buy more fabric, you know how it goes. And no, I haven't got it with me. And so I took it to the retreat with me and I said, right, I need an opinion, what do you think? And essentially it was a beige with some red, green and, yeah, I think red and green stripes and then some little pin dots going through it. And it would have suited the rest of the fabrics that I've picked out for this absolutely fine. But it then would have meant that these sort of oranges and ambers and browns for the leaves and things would not have stood out. So I then would have had to change the colour of the leaves, etc, etc, etc. And everyone just said, I think it's going to be a bit too busy against the rest of the quilt. So when I went to Bramble Patch, I ended up, God, where is it? So I haven't really prepped very well. No, I haven't got it with me. Where did I put that? Anyway, I've bought a piece of plain dark green fabric that will go absolutely fine. And then the middle section, so the background, I already had a lot of this coloured fabric. So I've cut these out, which I'm very pleased with, quite happy. Unfortunately, I've got a few more because, of course, I sat down and went, right, I'll just applique some things on. Not a problem. Oh, it's a lot harder than it looks. So my first attempt, because I've had a few. Do I even still have my first attempt? I must have. Oh, well, no. Anyway, so the first attempt, I thought, well, I'll be systematic about it. I will start in this top left-hand corner. So 4 leaves, circle, and some acorns. How hard can it be? So this is what I've got so far. And this was my second or third attempt. I will put it up close because I have no shame. So, I mean, you can see the puckering around the edges. You can see my circles are not circles. And this leaf is not terribly symmetric. And I know it's supposed to be a folk art and it's, you know, once it's quilted, etc. Although I don't think I'll quilt over the applique, so the applique is going to stand out. It's not terribly fantastic. It's a lot better than my first try. The things I struggled with, so I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can there. So I've creased the square, divided it up and put the creases in. So then I knew this leaf needed to go here, to go down here, etc, etc, etc. Well, the first time I stitched this leaf on, I think it started here and ended up coming across here because I suppose I was just pulling it and not noticing what I was doing, etc, etc. Yeah, it just wasn't very good. So the second time I undid it, redid it again, and I did put a little bit of glue. So I am using freezer paper to cut my shapes out of my fabrics. I'll show you my fabrics in a minute. And then I was drawing around it with a sort of chalk pencil that I've got, or I've got a pink Soline pencil thing, you know, one of these iron off, wash off things. And then I was pinning it, which I hate doing because you do nothing but catch the pin with the thread. Just drives me insane. So I do want to buy some smaller pins. Anyway, so the second time I glued it in place just with a bit of my Soline fabric glue. And it's better, but it's still not, actually it does, to be fair, it actually looks a little bit better on the screen than it does in real life. The circle shape, the leaf does. My biggest problem was that these are cut at, they're cut at 10 by 10. So this measurement includes an additional 1 inch. So when cutting the background fabric for the applique blocks, the background fabric should be cut at least 1 inch larger than the unfinished size to accommodate for fraying and distortion when appliquing, and trimmed to 9 by 9 after the blocks have been appliqued and pressed. So you cut it at 10 by 10, you applique everything on, and it gets cut down to 9 by 9, and then when you actually sew it all together, it goes down to 8.5. I cannot for the life of me, and I've tried another couple, I cannot fit these blocks, these pieces, into an 8.5 inch square. Just can't do it. Cannot do it. Now, fortunately, I have cut all my pieces at 10 by 10, and I realised this before I went off to the quilt shop to buy the backing and the sash, or the border and the sashing. And I think I'm going to have to leave mine, quite possibly cut mine down to 9.5, or maybe even leave them at 10 by 10 so that they end up as a finished 9.5 inch, because I cannot fit it all in an 8.5 inch square, which essentially is what you've got to do by the time you've cut it and sewn it. Just can't do it. And it doesn't matter how hard how I arrange it, just will not fit in. Anyway, so fortunately I realised that before I went and bought, as I said, before I went and bought the border and the sashing fabric. So I've bought a lot more than I actually need to make up for that. So I sort of thought, well, maybe this leaf is just, like, circles are notoriously difficult, or can, you know, you need to practice them a lot, needle turn, applique. And the leaf, I thought maybe that was just a little bit too symmetrical for a first time project. So that's fine. I will go to a different block with bigger bits on it, not quite so pointy bits, and hopefully practice on that. So I then decided to pick out this block here with a big horse, the bird, a couple of hearts. I've done needle turn applique hearts before. And actually this here are the initials LS for Laurie Smith. I can either put my initials in or do what have you. And this was where I really realised how hard I was going to struggle to fit everything into the square. So I got as far as this with the horse, which, again, on reflection, having looked at it for the second time, isn't as bad as it looked when I first did it. However, I had come to the conclusion I have proved myself quite correct. There's a very fine line when you're cutting out these pieces to needle turn between having too much of a seam to turn under and catch, and having too little so that it just frays as you try to turn it. And there seems to be a hair's breadth between the two. And there's no real rhyme or reason to it. And so I think the first few pieces I cut out, I think I had far too big. Sorry, the sun's not playing ball now, it's in the afternoon and clouds coming over. I think I had far too big a seam allowance, essentially, to turn under. And I also pre-cut, having followed a few videos, I sort of pre-cut, think, well, I need to cut there, I need to cut there, I need to cut there. And I don't actually think that helped at all. Anyway, so I sort of spent ages trying to put all of these. So I've got this little blue bird here, and here's his wing. I'd chosen my fabrics, and all this was going to look lovely. And there you go, that's the sort of thing. And yeah, I could not, for the life of me, fit it onto this square, or, you know, within the space it needed. And I wasn't very happy about some of the areas. So right up in the middle of his legs, essentially, you've got a very fine, very small area there, and a few sections had frayed there, and I was sort of trying to push them under and things, and it was all getting a bit too much. So I decided, rather than waste, although I have got extra fabric, rather than waste all of these squares, I would then just pull out some scrap fabric, scrap background, and sort of applique a few pieces on to work out where I needed to cut them and what I needed to do. And that actually has been quite successful. So theoretically, well, not theoretically, because I am only going to do it for the more difficult ones, because I'm really reasonably confident now within how it's working. So the two big things I've done is I've had a smaller, but not too small, seam allowance around the edge to turn under. And I actually leave, and this is really bizarre, and everyone's just going to go, what? I leave the freezer paper on as I'm doing the needle turn, and I needle turn up to the paper. So I do go round it with the pen. So once, as you're prepping it, you use the freezer paper to trace the shape. You then iron the freezer paper onto the fabric, and you then cut it out, leaving a quarter of an inch or a scrap, or, you know, between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch around here. And then you put this directly onto your bottom piece of fabric. Yes. And then you sew it on. And I do go around it. I do go around it with pencil, because obviously it shifts, you know, if you handle it enough. Although freezer paper will re-iron down again, which is quite good. So obviously it shifts, so I don't want to be completely left without knowing what I'm doing, but I find it much easier to go around and just needle turn up to the paper, and I'm cutting as I'm going, so I get to the point where I sort of think, right, this isn't going to turn, where do I need to cut it? Far fewer cuts, because I had far too many cuts around the edge of it as well, which then meant I ended up with sort of almost like a £1 coin, just sort of corners, you know, tiny little corner, which wasn't looking very good. And so I've been practicing that, and that is much better. And then one section, here we go, I'll show you that. So one section, this and the 2 leaves were proving an absolute nightmare to place initially. So when I've cut them out, I've had to put left and right on them, so I've got it going the correct way around. Oh my God, I am making a bit of a pig's meal of it. But anyway, so far I'm now much happier. She says that I'm now much happier. I've got a big crease in the middle of my horse. So I've just grabbed a scrap piece of paper, scrap piece of fabric. I'm going to have a lot of project bags coming out of this quilt. And I started with the hearts. So I was much happier with the hearts. This was near perfection. I was very happy with that. And that was exactly how it's supposed to sit. And then the horse I went through, and other than a little bit of bunching, and sorry, you'll have to excuse the crease in the middle of him. I am quite, yeah, so I've got a little bit of a thing there, a little bit of an air pocket or what have you there. But I am reasonably happy with the horse and happy with knowing how I'm actually going to put it onto the piece of fabric. I've had a whole thing with the needles. So you can get applique needles, you can get in-betweens, you can get all these different needles. And last year I bought some needles and I didn't like them because I can't thread applique needles. They're so fine, I cannot thread them and it's driving me insane. So I'm back to using my quilting, like John James quilting needles, number 10. They're quite small, they're a little bit thicker, but at least I can thread them easily. And I did also buy some in-betweens, which I bought for quilting. I don't get on with them fantastically for hand quilting, but I can thread them well enough, and they are that little bit slimmer or finer that I can use them for the applique. Because the whole point of it is you're not supposed to see the stitches, or you know, if you really want to be a perfectionist, you should not be seeing the stitches. And obviously, the bigger the needle, the bigger the hole. You know, the more apparent it's going to be. I'm not fighting to thread a needle. I can't see. Just could not do it. It's driving me insane. So yeah, so my good old handy hand quilting needles, I use them for everything. I use them to hand piece these together. I use them to applique. Just seems to be the needle that fits my hand and works. So it's what I'm sticking with. So yeah, so I haven't actually managed to do a block of this yet, but I have appliqued quite a few random shapes onto random bits of fabric and gone, no, not happy with that. But yeah, so I think I've now found my method of just keeping. I do have to, what I'd like to buy is, I think they're sequin pins possibly. They're really short little pins, and I would quite like to buy a packet of those, and just so I can keep so I can pin this onto the fabric, and they will be short enough that I will catch them occasionally, but I won't catch them as often as I catch the big pins. And also a little dab of glue here and there, and that keeps that in place well enough. So a new start that really hasn't got very far at all. However, I have finally got to the point where I think I might actually be confident enough to start using, doing a block on a proper background square and see how it works out. But yeah, I will be, as I go through it, if I think it's going to be a bit tricky, doing some scrap pieces. Would you like to see what fabric I've chosen for it? Oh, so exciting. So, on the back of the pattern, it does say, applique fabrics, assorted pieces of red, rose, orange, gold, green and blue. So that is what I've pulled out. I don't know what I'm not going to use, but let me just try and show you. So the blues I've pulled out are so here we go. And you know, I've just pulled a big section. I'm not going to use all of these. I'll just play it by ear as I go along. So I've got that blue, I've got these blues, I've got a little pinstripe number because I think there might be somebody wearing something somewhere. Bit of a paisley blue, a light blue, and my pinks are, I think, slightly fewer and far between. So we're just having a bit of fabric porn now, I'm afraid. So we have got two. So yeah, I bought these ages ago offline, these two, and I've always kept them because I thought I really should use them. Not my favourite, but I think they will actually work well enough within this. So I've got these two pinks, along with that pink, this brighter pink I love, and this is just one of my favourite fabrics ever, I think. So a lot of these are Civil War reproduction. I don't know if I've got any William Morris in here. A lot of sort of, yeah, they're just, that tends to be what I like. So I'm just biting the bullet and cutting into them because it's just ridiculous. They sit on the shelves, not being used because they're too pretty, and I like to sit and look at them and stroke them, and I just need to grow a pair and get on with it. Right, what have I got? Okay, so these are my reds. Again, won't be using all of these, but this is just the selection. That is so pretty. Drowned in fabric here. Let me just sort things out. So we've got this red. So I have gone for quite sort of some dark muted colours and then pops of colour. It's more of a burgundy colour. This is gorgeous. And then this is just a plain dark red, or plain, yeah, darkish red, which I think is very suitable for a sort of folk art quilt. These are my yellows. So my yellows are a lot stronger. So I've got yellow. Do like that one. That's quite a pretty, just sort of, it's a bit mottled. And then my Bazinga yellow. That'll show up. I needed some oranges, so I've gone for, I've got that orange and a darker orange. My greens, oh, there's another orange. Oh, don't forget the next orange. Now, my greens are these Kansas Troubles, Kim Deal, I think, quite possibly Laundry Basket, some of them, just lots of Civil War-y and just ones that I happen to just pick up because I like them when I see them at shows. We needed a black one. And I thought this for the acorns, how can you not fussy cut acorns out of this now? Where have they gone? This is the other thing. You have hundreds of these little pieces when you cut them out, and then somebody breathes too heavily and they all just scatter across the room. Oh my God, I've lost my acorn. And I have actually, I've lost some of the acorns, but we'll find those later. But yes, so I thought, right, that'll be called fussy cut for the acorns. I've then just got some random fabrics because she does say homespun and things and checkers. So I've just got some random that go within the other colours. This is an old fabric that my daughter made a cushion cover out of when she was at school. And I'll show you some of the bits on the pattern for why I have got some of these. Yeah, it just depends either how wild or wacky I want to go and how I don't. And then there's that green as well. Green's got sort of blue in it. It's not showing very well. This colour isn't the best. And then these are all the browns and the sort of golds and whatnot for the border, which will go on the green background. Checked. This is gorgeous. Oh, I love it. Sorry, I've got silly little bead. Oh, look, one's about to fall off on my thing that keeps on catching on this box, which is the scraping. I'm sure these are all Kansas Troubles, these ones just here that I'm showing you. Yeah, so I've got browns and some lovely golds to use on the border for. And is that it? I think that's it then. And as I said, I've got the sort of background pieces there and the green. So I had lots of fun. Well, I did have fun choosing it. I do find it a little bit stressful as well though. And cutting into them. Oh, it's heartbreaking. But, you know, they're not there to sit and look pretty. I'm supposed to use them. So, use them I will. And I think, oh no, I was going to show you the front, to show you some of the things that you could sort of have fun with. Let me just move that box out of the way. So things like the flower pot in the second one is checked. So it'd be quite good to use one of the checks for that. The lady and the boy in the second one down are both sort of, one's got a dress and he seems to have like a romper suit on. You could have fun with the patterns that you use for that. The rabbit is a very random, it's very patterned with blue blotches on it. Oh, there you go, that's better when it focuses a bit better. But yes, I thought I could do a couple of the vases possibly in the checked. And what else did I think? I can't remember what else I thought now. But yeah, so I've got lots of fun to be had with that when I actually, and I know there's 101 different ways you can do a plique. I know. I just want to hone my skill at needlework, needle turn applique. So how else to do it? But, you know, big old quilt. And that's it really. So going forwards, I need to cut out more of my Jane Austen pieces. I'd quite like to have another few of those ready so they're really good for sitting in the garden or just picking up while sitting on the sofa for 10 minutes. I would obviously like to get some of these blocks cut out, even if I just prep 2 or 3 of them or prep a border, and then start sort of putting it all together. Well, I shouldn't do the border until I've worked out what, yeah, no, I won't be doing the border till last because I need to work out. Oh, look, sorry, changing subject again, there's corner stains in it, so those are done as 4 different little squares. So, yeah, 4 patches, but I could use some of my weird and wacky, well, they're not that weird and wacky, but I could use some of those in that instead. But anyway, so I just thought to myself, I can't start the borders because obviously depending on what size the actual squares come out at, then means the borders are going to be slightly different. I don't think they're going to be there won't be that much difference because hopefully now also I've managed to fine tune it. It might fit in a little bit. We shall see. We'll see what happens when we get there. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you now. I've waffled on for long enough considering I've only got 3 projects to talk about. And if you're still here, thank you very much. If this is an individual video, then hopefully my next video will be all together again. If this isn't an individual video, then I will be flicking straight over to knitting and crochet, which I hope to record within the next couple of days. Time to get it done. So I will start with my first finish, which is my Piping Hot Sweater by Lily Kate France. So when I last recorded a video, I think I only had the ribbing left to go, so it was a very quick finish after that final video. I absolutely love it. I'm so pleased with this, so proud of this. I have used John Arbon Textiles, hang on a minute, Devonia DK in the colour Nightshade, which is this gorgeous purpley, and it's got dark lights, little bits of indigos in it. It's just stunning, absolutely fantastic. I love it. And then the pink that I used for the piping hot bit was Kremke Solwell Silky Kid, which is a 72% mohair and 28% silk. I don't think it's got a colour. No, it's just a bright pink. So, as I said, this is I think, because I don't really know what I'm talking about, a saddle shoulder construction. So you start with your 2 rectangles for your shoulders. You then join to do the neck. You then join, cast on for the neck and the back of the neck. And then you start to work down the front and the back, join in the round, go down and add your sleeves. There's an awful lot of German short rows in this, which are absolutely fine. They're not difficult, absolutely fine. And of course, it just makes such a difference to the fit of the sweater. Yeah, so I'm really, really pleased with this. The pattern when you print it out, because I am a bit old fashioned, I do like to print my patterns out, is this absolute 20-page almost thesis. And it can be a little bit overwhelming, but actually this jumper is really, really easy to make. Her pattern is unbelievably clear, holds your hand, so good, so well written. The only slight issue is that because you've got a little ball of wool for all 4 of your pipings, and then you've got various, you can have a little bit of yarn management just up here, can be a little bit tricky. And there's lots of cast on and cast off, so you've got quite a few sort of loose ends as well. But it's fine, it's not difficult. It can just get a little bit messy and thinking, oh, am I using the right yarn at the moment? But yeah, so I'm really, really pleased with this, so pleased with how it worked out, and I can't wait to start another Lily Kate design, because as I said, they're absolutely fantastic. Her patterns are so well written, and everything always has those few extra details, the short rows, whatever, to make it sit nicely. So that was my first finish. Then I decided to, so I'm just going to do a bit of rustling because I couldn't remember the name of the yarn I wanted to talk about. Then, here we go. Then I made myself a scarf and a pair of fingerless mittens. Well, these are called toasts actually, to go with a jacket that I bought. So I bought this yarn specifically from a yarn shop in Bath to match the jacket that I was wearing, because I knew I wanted to make a little set to go with it. And this yarn is Rowan Moordale. So I have used this before to make the Olives vest, which I've actually managed to lose. 2 jumpers I've lost at the same time. We have turned the house upside down. None of the children have got them. Obviously left them in a travel lodge or something somewhere. But I can't believe I have, because 2 jumpers in a tightly packed bag, I would think would be quite noticeable when you came to walk out of the room that you didn't have them. Anyway, I'm so peed off that I've lost it, because I really, really liked it, and I bought the yarn when we were skiing in Andorra, so it was quite nice to have. That was my piece to remember that trip by. Anyway, I bought this down in Bath. I don't know the colour name, I'm afraid. And when I was working with this for the Olives vest, it was in a dark sort of turquoisey, tealy blue. I noticed that there were sort of brown areas within it. And when I looked up the wool, it was basically the way it's dyed, you do get this slight mottling. You still get the dark alpaca because it's partly alpaca wool that shines through.
So I was like, it's fine, I love the wool, I loved wearing it before I lost it, so I'm going to use it again. I do love it. The colour goes fantastically with the jacket that I bought it to wear it with. However, in my scarf, don't think it's really going to show here. No, it's not showing. It will show because I will be vindicated at this. Can you see? It's just slightly. Anyway, within this lighter colour, I was sort of knitting it thinking, it just looks like I've spilled my breakfast down the front of my scarf. It can't be that bad because the friend I went with didn't mention it, and she would have mentioned it if she thought that it wasn't looking fantastic. But this scarf, and the pattern is in my phone, I can't remember it is. I will either put it on the thing or write it down below. It's a double knit scarf and it's absolutely fantastic, although it took forever, but that was great because it's really, really easy knitting. So it's just mindless knitting. And yeah, it just sits like that. And having finished this, I then decided I love these. They're called, it's the Toast pattern by Leslie Friend of A Friend to Knit With. And it's basically just sort of wrist warmers / fingerless mittens, but you just put them on at this point. So you can pull them down or bring them up and over. And I just find they're fantastic because, as I said, you know, it's, I think if you've put, anyway, I like them. I like this pattern. So this was the little set that I made with my yarn from Bath. And yeah, there we go. I think, what did I do? Because this isn't the correct weight of yarn for the pattern. I mean, it's such a simple pattern. So I measured the ones that I had made previously that were the correct, done with the correct weight of yarn, and then just did a gauge swatch and worked out basically how many stitches I needed to cast on to get it to the right width to go around my wrists. So yeah, I'm really happy with my little, that dinky little set. This is really, really easy. As I said, it's double knitting, so you are, you know, you're only knitting half the stitches one side and half the stitches the other side, but it's lovely and warm. And it just, and it's, again, it's really easy to do because I did sort of get to this point and think, oh my goodness me. But there is a tutorial in with the pattern. So yes, I was very proud of my little matching set as I went off for the day. And yeah, I think it's probably just me. I'm sure it's just me, but it does just look a little bit like it's sort of spilt something. You can't see it. You can't see it, but I can. Anyway, so that was another finish that I have done. That scarf did take, as I said, it took a very long time because it was double knitting. Very mindless double knitting, but yeah, it did take quite a long time. And then I decided I wanted another really simple knit. I can't remember, we were probably going somewhere or doing something. So I found the pattern. Oh, I've lost the name of it now. Hang on 2 seconds. It's the Aran Garter Stitch Cardigan by Audrey Wilson, again on Ravelry. And I used James C. Brett Aztec Aran with alpaca. So I was obviously in a shop somewhere and picked up these. In fact, did I get this? I think I might have got this from the quilt show at Newmarket I went to. And I bought it, that's right, I bought it with the intention of making a crochet jumper. I have talked about it before, but I'm fine if I'm crocheting a blanket, but crocheting a garment I've never done. Really struggling with gauge swatch, didn't really understand, gave up and thought, right, I'm just going to start this will be nice and easy. And about a week later, the lady whose pattern it is for the crochet jumper, I think it's Granny Go Round Sweater or something, has now done an in-depth, about 12 different videos on every single step of the jumper. So at some point I will make that jumper, but it wasn't to be this time. So I decided, as I said, to make this Aran Garter Stitch cardigan. Fairly self-explanatory. It is just a garter stitch cardigan. These actually, I might end up, again, just tacking these because these should turn up. This was a lot bigger and sort of puffier, which I didn't particularly like, so I stuck it in the washing machine, which is fine. And so it's just sort of flattened it all out a bit, which I prefer. However, the alpaca hair has gone everywhere with what else was in the wash. I pulled it out of the machine. I was just like, oh my God. Anyway, my only issue with this is one size, well, fits all, so long as you're within that size range. It is quite a wide size range. There is only one size for the pattern. However, it would be very simple, I think, to either lengthen it that way or that way. It's knitted all in one, and then you just fold it over and seam it up around the arms. My only slight concern is, well, not concern, what I'm not happy with is just above the button, this keeps on doing this, it won't sit flat. So I will either, because it does annoy me enough, I will either just stitch it together, so then the button comes slightly redundant, which is fine, it just goes on over my head anyway, or I will do one of those little poppers. Yeah, I'll just do a sort of, a metal popper thing. But yeah, so I really haven't worn this yet because I actually washed it, and then my seaming was shown up to be not as good as it could be. So I need to just go back in. I've got more yarn, I think. Just need to go back in and tidy that up a bit. But I think this is just going to be great to throw on either over a dress or in the summer. I think it's just great. Really simple pattern again. Then I think, I can't really remember. I think my daughter and I went to Poland and we had a great time, and there was a yarn shop in the town where we were staying, or the city where we were staying, and so I went running across there one day after we'd been out on a visit and picked up 2 balls of super fine, extra fine merino. Super Garnet, possibly, I assume that's, anyway, so there it is. So I bought myself a bright turquoise blue, or bright turquoise, and I bought myself a red, and I haven't woven my ends in, but I decided to knit myself a Sophie scarf, and I did it where I just started, waved the ball, started, stopped halfway and started decreasing. So this is a very simple pattern. Made a couple of them. Every time I make them, and I normally make them because they're just really easy and mindless knit, and I do like smaller scarves, I sort of make it and think, yeah, I don't really know how to style this again, or, it just doesn't quite, I don't know whether I quite get the right length, or it is just that bit too wide, because I don't tend to do a gauge swatch for this. I just think, oh, I've got a ball of yarn. But actually, that's not too bad during winter, that'll be all right. So yeah, so there's a red one, and there will, at some point the next time we go somewhere and I need a mindless knit, be a very bright blue one. So there we go. So that was another, I do need to weave those ends in. It doesn't bother me weaving ends in, actually. I'd just completely forgotten that I hadn't done that. So that is a Sophie scarf from Petite Knit. Sorry, probably didn't hear that, but it just rambled off at the end. Then I decided to start looking at some summer knitting. So last year I made a couple of summer tops, which I'm really pleased with, but I wanted to try different yarns. I basically would just want to have a few summers where I just pick a couple of tops and pick different yarns and see which one I actually prefer for my summer knitting. And I have, so I had a bit of an issue with this one. I basically bought the yarns last year, stuck them in 2 shoe boxes with a note of what I bought the yarn with the intended pattern. Not that that was, I didn't have to do that, but that's what I'd bought it. So I know I've got the correct amount for that particular pattern. And I pulled out the first box, and it was a Tolster tee. And I thought, well, I've already made one Tolster tee, but it was made in a merino, DK merino. And I don't tend to wear it because it's too thick for a t-shirt. And yeah, it just doesn't work anywhere in my wardrobe. It just doesn't quite work. So I thought, right, I'm going to, and that was my fault. I just bought the wrong yarn. So I thought, right, I'm going to do a Tolster tee, and I bought some drops yarn because everyone always talks about it. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go, see what it's like. It's, very affordable, etc., etc., etc. So I bought Drops Cotton Light, and it's just Unicolor, and this is 50% cotton and 50% polyester. Now, when I pulled this off the shelf to start it, for some reason in my head I was absolutely convinced that this was a 4-ply, because I knew I had bought some 4-ply to try to knit a summer top in. And so I've already had the pattern, I've had it for ages, and it's the Tolster Tee from Rebecca Clow, and within the pattern you get a lot of variations, things you can add, things you can take away, different yarn weights, etc, etc, long sleeves, short sleeves, v-necks, you know, there's a lot within the one pattern. It's a really good pattern. It's a very simple pattern, and I was quite convinced that this was going to be a 4-ply, and so I went to the 4-ply pattern, did my swatch, chose my size, started off, and wasn't really liking the fabric that it was making, and actually felt that the fabric was quite a bit rougher within the knit than it was within the balls of the yarn. I said, I don't really understand this. And this is lovely. I do love this colour. It's another blue, but every now and again you've just got these, I don't think you're going to see it, bright sort of, can you see it? No. They're just little turquoisey flecks. Not hundreds of them, but there are some almost. When I first started, I actually thought that they haven't mixed the dye fully in. I sort of thought, oh, okay, I've got a rogue ball here. This doesn't look good. It doesn't stand out, but okay. No, it's on all balls. It's just the colour that it is. Anyway, so I started, and yeah, I didn't really like the yarn. I didn't like the fabric it was making, and blah, blah, blah. And then I had my quilting week, and I was sitting next to a lady who was using cotton bamboo. I'm going to be trying that next. That looks really nice. And she had a lovely colour in it. And she goes, oh, this is my, yeah, it's a DK rate. And I said, well, that looks very much like my 4-ply. So no, this is definitely 4-ply. Anyway, I'd got down to the point I nearly joined in the round, I think. And so I came home, and I thought, I will just check. And of course it wasn't, it's a DK rate. So I ripped it all back, started again. But yeah, I'm now here. So I think I've just about to finish this little ball here. And then I'll try it on again. And have I got any more? I assume I've got one more ball of yarn. So I can either add some more or just go straight onto the ribbing. Again, this is a fantastic pattern. Everything's very easily explained. All the numbers are there. Very much holds your hand. The only thing I'm not that fussed on for me personally, so I like, oh, that is one thing I did. Sorry, all over the place. That is one thing I did. With my 1x1 ribbing on the collar, once I'd finished it, I then did a German short row, so it was the other way around, because as with a lot of people, I find that my ribbing is better on the inside than the outside. So I gave that a go, and I used a tutorial from Mostly Knitting. She's got some fantastic tutorials. So I followed her tutorial, did it, it all worked fine. So I'm happy with the collar. And I've done the ribbing on the sleeves, and I don't dislike my ribbing on my sleeves. What I don't like is where it joins, actually, where I've just changed. I do wonder whether next time I might actually do a purl row, so at least you've got a bump and then you come. I just don't like the way it just sort of, and I have gone down needle size. I've done everything as instructed. I don't think it's particularly smart, that very initial row of the ribbing. And whilst it's fine, I wonder if maybe putting just doing a purl row so you've got that little bump to then start the ribbing from. I don't know, we shall see. I won't do it at the bottom because I want it all to be the same. But I might try that next time. But yeah, so I'm really, really pleased with this. This is going to be quite large, or this is going to be quite roomy, which is absolutely fine. And it will just be interesting to see how it's quite heavy. It is quite heavy, giving us DK and it's cotton. And it will just be interesting to see how it wears through the summer in relation to the other yarns more than anything that I've used in summer knits. So that is my Tolster tee from Rebecca Clow using Drops Cotton Light. I think that's what confused me, because it was Cotton Light. I thought, oh, that'll be a 4-ply, but it isn't, it's a DK. Anyway, hopefully that will be finished within the next couple of days. I think that's it. I think that's it for all the knitting that I've done. I have got a few, so I have that purchase obviously from Poland. And then we went skiing at the beginning of March and we flew out of, is it Geneva? Yeah, I think it was Geneva. Fairly sure it was Geneva. Anyway, wherever it was I went to, funnily enough, I found a yarn shop. It smells, I don't know what it is, it smells absolutely delicious, and it's not sheepy smell. It's not mothballs, but it's just the whole, I think the whole shop had this fragrance and it still sits there and it's lovely, I love it. But anyway, sorry, the shop was due to close, so I only had about 5 minutes, so I went running in and went, I'm really sorry, I just want to buy something before we go home. And she thought, no, that's absolutely fine. So I came out with alpaca sock 4-ply easy wash from Lang Yarns. So I've got a dark blue one. Okay, and that's the, and I also picked up a light blue one of the same Lang Yarns alpaca sock 4-ply. So my sock knitting has ground to a halt completely at the moment. Basically because I started doing a 1x1 rib sock where I wanted it to go the whole way down. Oh, it's driving me insane. Absolutely, no, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to pull it out. Problem is, as it grows and grows and grows, and then you put it on, and it shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, and you say, I'm not getting anywhere. And I just wanted some slightly more boring, because I've got a lot of stripy socks, slightly more boring coloured socks. Not that these are boring colours, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so I picked those up for socks, and then I picked up Lang Merino 120, Merino Extra Fine, again super wash in the colour, does it give me a colour? No, just another dark navy. So I picked up 2 of those, I should imagine probably to make another Sophie scarf, or it'll make some scarf, or I can make some, I'll find something to do with those. I do appreciate looking around that I am now very blue navy heavy within my knitting at the moment, and that is actually quite deliberate. So when I first started knitting, I would always walk into a shop and pick up blue yarn and think, no, everything, because I wear a lot of blue, I think, oh, everything in your wardrobe is blue. Choose some different coloured yarns, choose some different coloured yarns. So I have done so, and whilst I'm very happy with the yarns I'm choosing, I do often get up and get dressed and think, oh, I just wish I had a blue jumper to throw on. And of course, the one colour I haven't got at the moment is blue, because I haven't been buying it. So now I'm making up for it now with my cardigan, the Tolster tee, and yes, I'm back into my blue era. I do like other colours as well, but I just think I like blue. And then plans-wise, as I said, I had 2 of these. I'd bought 2, summer top quantities of yarn last year to try. And the other one I bought, which is a 4-ply, this one definitely is Sanders Garn Tinline, which I think is how you say it. And this is, right, you're going to have to excuse me with my double glasses because I need varifocals. 53% cotton, 33% viscose, 14% linen. I mean, this is a very, what colour is this? 6032, I think. I don't think it's actually got a colour. So, I mean, this is obviously a very well-known yarn. Everyone uses it. And so I thought, right, I'm going to give it a try, see what it's like, see how I cope with knitting with 4-ply for a garment, because I appreciate it's going to take a lot longer. And the garment I would like to make with this, and I bought this, sorry, from the Oxford Yarn store. That's why I kept that in there. That's where I found my Tinline. You get a sweet little note at the back. And I plan to make the Hope vest. which is a pattern I bought a couple of years ago, and it's a sleeveless V-neck, and you've just got a little bit of, it's not called ribbing. What is it when the stitches are twisted? Cables. So you just, but it's literally just one cable for the neckline and around, I think it's around the armholes and along the ribbing. So of course I bought the pattern and then started to read, printed it off, started to read, and it's just like, oh, completely overwhelmed again. So I put it away, but I think I'm now there where I can give it a go, hopefully. And if not, it will get turned into something else. But yeah, so that's now a nice light summery blue, but blue again. And I think that is it for my knitting. So yeah, this, I appreciate this has probably been a little bit fast and garbled, but there we go. So hopefully, as I've said, this will all just flow through and have been one long video. If not, then it's 3 shorter ones, but I hope to be back for one long one next time. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry, yarn fluff everywhere now. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy your crafting and speak to you soon. Bye.